learners, you are welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. I teach literature in English. Today, we'll be looking at the use of figures of speech as a technique or device.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Figures of speech is actually meant to be applied in literary text and poems. It's one of the literary elements that writers use to project theme so that it becomes real. They have a sample of poem that is choosing to teach students on how to answer questions that is set on literary device. Figure of speech is actually one of those style of a writer to beautify his work. The poem that is chosen to do this is Black Woman by Leopold Senghor. And we have subtitle. We'll be examining the use of metaphor as a prominent device in the poem Black Woman. At the end of the class, this is what we will achieve. Number one, we'll be able to read the poem. 2, analyze the poem stanza by stanza. 3, list the demands of the question. Then learn new words. For students to have a very good performance in answering questions that borders on devices or techniques, the student must have his poem with him and read for assimilation. In learning poems, you stand the chance of increasing your vocabulary. So there are words that actually carry a lot of meanings that you have to understand or get the meaning. Sombre conveys gloomy suggestions or idea. Rapture is a state of experience of being carried away by overwhelming emotion. Then we have savanna, a tropical or subtropical grassland as of Eastern Africa, or containing scattered trees and drought-resistant undergrowth. So when we look at this word in the light of the poem, then we get the real meaning of the poem. So at the end of this session, students will be able to read the poem, analyze the poem stanza by stanza, list the demands of the question, and learn new words, which we have actually learned before now. We have other ones, shuddering, that means trembling and or quivering in fear, or rising, the limit or extent of one's outlook or experience, interest, or knowledge, etc. Glinting, having a brief, brilliant point or flashes of light. Muttering, to murmur or grumble. Complaining or angrily. The background of this poem is best understood with the knowledge of negritude. Negritude is an ideology or a philosophy of African writers trying to raise the status of African culture and heritage. And so, in this poem, there is a reflection of negritude. The analysis of this poem, stanza by stanza. Don't forget that we are trying to look at the devices used in this poem, Black Woman. Stanza 1. Stanza 1 actually traces the color and the structure or the status, the structure of a black woman. Black woman is actually being used to represent Africa. Africa is abstract, but it's been given a form in order to address it. So in stanza 1, we have cloth with color, which is life, and with form, which is beauty. We are talking about metaphor. Metaphor as a device in black woman, in a poem. Here, we are going to be identifying the metaphor and try to analyze it as the writer has used it. So the first stanza talks about the color and calling it the life of of Africa. So it means that color is African identity. Then we have form. The shape of a black woman is equal to beauty. And we have metaphor there. We have in your shadow, I have grown up. So it's portraying Africa, giving Africa a mother figure that nurtures and trained his child, and trained a child. And now, on eye up on the sun peak, pass. We have that passage, we have that stanza talking about Africa as being a promised land. Africa, a place whereby after going to other continents, home is still the best. And so, no matter what, he still is remembering his motherland. Then we go to the next one, stanza 4. Before the stanza 4, we have refrain. Refrain is repeating a phrase in order to focus the attention on the subject matter. So, in stanza 4, it's talking about the richness of African resources. It's comparing Africa to farm flesh ripe fruits of sombre rapture. Sombre there is the blackness, and rapture is sparkling. And so, Africa is a continent that is rich in natural resources that can create such thing like black wine that's so sweet to drink. Savannah stretching is actually talking about the landscape of Africa that is so vast that leads to other lands, that is leading to other horizon. Then we have 5 and 6. It's talking about the resilience spirit of Africa. Africa is compared to calf tom-tom, tout tom-tom. That is a kind of drum in Senegal. A tout drum is not easily broken. So Africans under the hands of colonial masters were maltreated, but they are not broken. So it's praising the resilient spirit of Africa. Then we have the resolute spirit of Africa. Oil that no breath ruffles. Calm oil in atlas flanks. That stanza is actually talking about the resolute spirit of Africa. Africa is not easily cowed out of a conviction. And so oil, just as oil is not easily removed, Africans are very strong in their spirit to stand for what they want and their rights. Then stanza 8, the hair of an African woman is also a beauty. He said, the delight of the mind, under the shadow of your hair, my care is lightened. Even the hair of a black woman is a source of beauty for an African woman. Stanza 9, the persona professes his commitment to actually expose the beauty of Africa through the power of literature. Before the white colonialists will exterminate them completely, he would like to launch Africa into the world. So In all of this, you can actually see that metaphor is used right from the beginning to the end of that poem. You have metaphor in clothes in your color, actually saying that your color is your clothes. He said your form is your beauty. That is a metaphor. He said, I have come to you, my promised land, calling Africa a promised land. That's another metaphor. He said, we have simile there, but our concentration is on metaphor. The simile there is, and your beauty strikes me to the heart like the flash of an eagle. Then he calls Africa firm-fleshed ripe fruit, sunbeam rapture of a black wine. It's actually saying, Africa, that is what you are. Then we have calf tom-tom. Africa, you are just like a drum that is being beaten but refuse to break. So he calls Africa a drum that is beating, called tom-tom. Then we have oil that no breath ruffle. Africa is a oil that's not easily removed, no matter how much somebody tries to remove it. It's a gazelle. Africa is a gazelle. It's a gazelle limbed in paradise. Africa, you are specially molded from heaven. He calls Africa pearls. Pearls are stars. You are like a pearl and ornaments that beautify on the skin of an African person. The light of the mind, that's another metaphor. You are the glinting red gold that is worn on a woman's neck. That's another metaphor. He said, under the shadow of your hair, my care is lightened by the neighboring sun of your eyes. The sun, the neighboring sun of your eyes there is a metaphor. So you can see that from the beginning to the end. At the end there, he said, before jealous fate, turn you to ashes. That's another metaphor there. So you can see that this is a prominent device used by the poet. And so that brings us to the question of examining the use of metaphor as a prominent device used in Black woman. In answering this question, there are rules, there are criteria that students have to follow, and if it's well done, it's very sure that it's going to have a very good credit. In answering that question, you start with the statement on the central theme. In whatever poem or text that is read, there is always a central theme, a subject matter about which book is written. So that is a way of having a summary of the text or the poem. So there is need for statement on the central theme. And the central theme of this is the natural beauty of Africa. So a student is expected to have a statement written connecting it to negritude and portraying the natural beauty of Africa, an Africa that has been looked down upon before, but yet a lot of natural beauty is now being brought out. Define metaphor as a figure of speech. After that, there must be connectivity. After that, then you connect it to the central theme by saying that figure of speech is one of the techniques used to portray the central theme of natural beauty of Africa. Then, after that, you define metaphor, and that is where you bring in the knowledge of the figure of speech that you have learned. 3, you pick 3 or 4 instances of metaphor in the poem. After definition of metaphor, in this poem, right from the beginning to the end, we have a prevalence of metaphor in the poem, picking like 3 or 4 instances and relating it to the appropriate theme. Like metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that compares directly two things. So here, You can pick example of your color, clothes with your color, which is life. That is a metaphor that actually relates to the natural beauty of Africa. If you pick one like calf tom-tom, tau tom-tom, that one is actually relating to the resilient spirits of Africa. So themes has to be related, devices have to be related with the theme, because it is used to project the theme the more, so that it can be seen. Then lastly, you make a concluding statement of all you have said and what the poet is trying to portray. You make your conclusion. There is a model answer. You can actually create time to read through this. We have this question so that you can try your hands on answering question on devices. So look for other devices apart from other figure of speech used as a device apart from metaphor, and try your hands on it. So for question or comments, you can reach us on our social media handles displayed on the screen. Thank you very much.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.